Um, I think I needed to be a bit more consistent with the type of green I'm using. Again, I'm not doing the traditional wargame thing of painting my entire army the same yet, which I think is going to come back to bite me in the ass this year. Yeah, that really did come to bite me in the ass, huh? Well, here we are in, well, 2023 now, but this is the 2022 Everything I Painted This Year video. We've moved house as well, which is nice, so I can sit down at my kind of new fancy paint desk with my new fancy booth and show you everything I've got. So, this year has been defined by three things really. First, as alluded to in the title, I repainted all of my hack to have a matching scheme. Get into that in a minute. In repainting it, I've been primarily using these speed paints. Previously, I was mixing inks to create my own speed paints. It's pretty good results. But the thing I found was it was quite time consuming to do all the testing. And what's really enabled me to do a lot more this year in terms of like raw models and make them a lot more consistent is just to be using these pre-mixed paints. I really rate these army painter paints. I really rate the technique of underpainting. Some people have been calling it slap chop, but annoyingly I was about 6 months maybe ahead of the curve on that before it really took off this year. I think it's a really good technique, and for me, these are all at least tabletop standard, and I don't care much about going above and beyond that massively. So for me it's perfect. So that's one thing, it's paints. Another thing, repainted all my Hackslam army. The third thing is the 3D printing. Now, I had some really good results with this, and I've had some bad results. In my previous place, I could just print all day while I was working, but now that we've moved, we don't have a garage, so it's going to become a less and less frequent thing. On top of that, a lot of the things that I printed were too ambitious and really stressed me out. So I'm just going to cut back a bit and only print things that are really meaningful to me. Speaking of things that are really meaningful to me, I'll start off with an absolute banger. This is a piece that I made for Gasland's Car of the Month. Except for I think the competition was slightly longer than that. The competition was giant robots, and I think I didn't do very well just because I didn't hit the category very well. But this kind of scorpion car might be the best thing I've ever made. I'm really happy with it. I really went all out on just the detail. I'm really happy with the colours. Hold it just an angle so you can see a bit better. There are parts from all sorts of things as well. They're stripped die-cast cars, there's 3D printed parts, there's custom modelled 3D printed parts, there's bits from kits, there is cardboard in here. I really went out on this thing, and I don't think I'm ever going to take it down from my shelf. I'm super proud of it, and if I can ever get it to a table to play, that'd be great, but to be honest with you, it's kind of just a showstopper. I didn't do a ton more Gasland stuff this year apart from that. I did this bad boy with these 3D printed parts at the front, which I'm pretty happy with as well. You could do with a partner, but that's kind of a longer term thing. I also did another set of cars to give away to friends, so for them to keep. And I also did one really special car for a friend's birthday who was playing down south. That's kind of the limits of my Gasland stuff this year. I would like to do some more, but I think I need a bit of inspiration on that to get back into it. The Infinity stuff really took off quickly. I'd already kind of got it in my head that I was going to strip it down and repaint it. It's the nice thing about these metal models, is you can really just repaint them and repaint them and repaint them. In fact, I think this missile bot was already white, and then I repainted it again because I wasn't happy with it. I had these bases as well for another project that I just canned and used for these guys. I'm really glad I did. I think the cream on these really helps the blue pop out. There are definitely models that I like less, back here, some of these guys where I've not thinned down the speed paint properly, a bit rougher in the High Lord blue, but there are some at the front here, which, especially this here, oh my god, I thought the previous version was good. This version is ace, and he's the simplest guy to do it in the world. Like, there's not a lot of detail under there in terms of like actually the blue armor, but that cloak looks amazing. The contrast, you can really see all the bits of the armor, the red face. I adore him. I also had to paint the Nerova twins, who I'm really happy with their designs. They stand out a bit from the others just because they're a bit more warbandy, but those models are hell like to put together. These little joints here, they both had arms fall off multiple times. Would not recommend at all, but they've been great this season. They've been really good profiles and I've had a really good time playing the game. A lot more in person as well. Previously I was playing a lot more online, but after a tournament earlier this year, I've been playing more and more in kind of like northern Manchester area, and it has been so much fun. I think it's made me like better at playing physically, but a lot worse playing digitally. Oh my god, because it's just an entirely different game playing in person to playing online. And I love both. I love playing online because you get some of the most competitive players in the world playing. And I love playing in person because it just feels more like a social experience. Really been a really interesting year for Infinity, for me. One of the games that I painted up that I've not played a lot of is Malifaux. This is an excellent skirmish game, and I am exceedingly proud of these miniatures. This is basically a full Chilean faction with like a few options, and the bases are 3D printed, and they have water effects on them, which I'm super happy with. They are all magnetized as well. Not that I am transporting them, because I'm not playing this game a lot. But despite having only played it once, I've got these guys to the table once, so that's nice. They're easily some of my favourite miniatures I've ever painted. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, I'm really happy with the colour scheme. The kind of rule I did is I just sliced the colour pie in half and only used one side. And there were some really good challenges to that. So because the rats are using brown, despite how kind of like Victorian looking all these characters are, I can't use any browns on them because I'm using browns to denote where rats are. So I say the girl, she's holding a rat there, etc. So I had to be really creative with the kind of cloth colours and stuff. I didn't use any blues at all, so it all feels very cohesive. And this is all just, again, like this is just speed paint over underpaint. This is all speed paint as well. It's a lot more brushed on rather than airbrushed, which has led to some very like rough effects you see in places. And I love that effect. In fact, it's been popularized in the last kind of like 3 months, and I did it way before, and it's so annoying because it's like, man, like if I'd made a video on that, I would have just got lightning in a bottle there. But it is a really good technique. And so yeah, very happy with the colours, very happy with the kind of design of the bases. I think it really ties it together. Assembling these models is hell though. These are the only kind of traditional plastic model kits I've done. Plastic glue is great, but some of these parts are tiny. The cigarette on this fat boy here is 2 separate parts. That is mental. I can't believe that. But hey, they're all together. There are a few lines on a few of the rats that I'm not super pleased with, but apart from that, they'll stick together fine. And I'm just super proud of these guys. The fact that they're 32 rather than 28 just makes them so much like easier and more fun to paint. Like you're not having to pick out all the tiny little details. In fact, the thing I'm really realizing is I need to pick up games other than Infinity. Not because I don't want to paint more Infinity armies, I absolutely do. But because Infinity armies are hell to paint. There are so many little details. And the models I actually really like in my Infinity collection, the ones where I'm picking out less of them. Rather than ones where I'm struggling to pick out all the details. Anyway, that's my Malifaux team that I played once and lost. So that's a really good success story. A small failure is this building. It's not finished, quite obviously, but this was my attempt at 3D printing terrain. They look great. I'm really happy with them, but this was absolute hell to assemble. And it wasn't even my worst 3D printing project this year. This took basically all year to assemble. I did small things between, but like each part was problems. You can see clearly like places like here where there's been warping issues. And if you look underneath, I've had to sculpt together bits and pieces to get it to fit together. I think even if I had a bigger resin printer, I still wouldn't print this. I think this is purely like a filament printer kind of print. And I'm not huge on the mold lines, so I really didn't want to do that. Really happy with the result. It's going to be a really good centerpiece when it's painted up with the rest of the table. But I'm going to have to work out something else to do to make buildings. And I have some plans in the works, using kind of like clay to make terrain, but we'll see. A more successful terrain story. Oh my god, these cactuses. I am so pleased with them. There's so many things that like could go wrong here, but this is one of the things I painted last in the year. I've literally just finished it this week. In fact, technically, so this was done in 2023. I'm really happy with them. There's a few little touch-ups I want to do. I want to add some little shrubs to them, some of those tufts. I've got them in the mail coming soon. But I think they match the playmat all right, and more importantly, the little rocks on them match this pre-painted rock here, which is something I was really worried about. But like, these things look like they match. Makes me really excited to have enough terrain for a full Infinity table, which I'm hoping to do relatively early in the year, because I have some friends coming up who are looking to get into the game, and I'd love to have some of the people I'm playing in real life come over and play, and get some new people into it. So, that required. That's all that I've got paper terrain, so it's not all in the world. So, yeah, moving on. Played in a sick RPG this year. It was a one-shot, where 40k one-shot, and there was like 15 players or something ridiculous. It was great, and my character died horribly, so I painted them before and after. And this is the only character I've been able to paint this year from D&D games. Love to paint some more, but we'll see if that happens. It's always a trouble finding the right model. I'm not 100% on Hero Forge. I think this guy did the job for what I wanted, and I've got some credit so I can make some characters from it. But they are a little bit cartoony for my taste. I prefer the more kind of realistic proportions that some of these other models have. The nice thing about this is it really gave me a fairly like bottom of the barrel basic yellow to then use for repainting Maggie. I liked my previous Maggie, but I think this one demonstrates how I've kind of got better at the hobby in some ways. There's definitely still some mistakes here. I think these missiles could use some work, and this panel looks a bit plain. I think the weathering is a bit much. It's covering some mistakes, and I'd rather have that than anything else. But there's also a lot of things I've done really right here. The base is really interesting, not too detailed because it's quite bright, but there's enough detail there. It's really solid now. It's all been pinned together for a huge metal model. There's no kind of like glue lines or things that are breaking off. Really, really happy with Maggie. Maybe I'll do some touch-ups in the future, but I don't think I'm going to strip her down and repaint her a third time. To go with her, I painted Fiddler, who is a trans representation character in Infinity, who I also adore. And she is painted to match effectively. And I got her to the table once, and she didn't do anything, so that was alright. I'd like to play a few more games with her, I think. She's a really fun profile. Okay, continuing through. Operation Blackwing came out. That was pretty cool. And I bought it, and I bought Beyond. So I had a hell of a lot of models to paint. It was a really fun event. I really enjoyed it. I got shouted out by Corvus Belli in one of their articles for the battle plot we did, so that was really fun. The steel phalanx guys are all painted up bar one over here. And I'm excited for more of them to come out this year so I can paint them one by one. I was using these turbo dog paints that there's really interesting effect when you airbrush them over stuff where they shift colours. So there's a kind of like bluish glow, I don't know if I'll pick up the camera, bluish kind of like glimmer to all these models, which is nice. I'm not 100% happy with these guys. They're tabletop ready and I'll happily play them. But they're a bit thick, some of the paints, because I had some real trouble getting that kind of mixture like over consistently and lightly. In fact, you can see my second attempt. I'll drag her over. She is a lot thinner looking, but she's also a bit more orangey. So I'm hoping once I've put some varnish on that, they'll match up a bit better. Anyway, happy overall though, especially happy with this guy back here, because that is a custom resculpt of his mate here to the left. That's the exact same model that I've just repositioned using a metal saw and bits and pieces. So it's nice to do some kind of kit bashing, so I've got two of the same guy that look different enough. But yeah, I'm excited to play more of them. I'm decently happy with the scheme, and I'll happily pick up probably like maybe half a dozen more models so that I can play them on occasion or use them for demos and things like that. They're cool and they're very different to what I'm playing. The other half, the hack half, really exciting. I think, unlike some of the models over here that are the same scheme, where some of them I've nailed and some of them I've missed, I think all of these I'm like mostly happy with. I've not finished the hack half yet. I've got a character and 2 day Lamy to do, and these three models here, these three models here are work in progress. They basically just need some lines on them and some cleaning up of the white coat. But for the ones I painted, I'm really happy with. The new options are great, and the options that are old, that we actually have models for, are really good. I painted 2 of the new HVT, Helen of Troy, in hack colours rather than steel phalanx colours, so that they can be my impersonation markers, which is nice. So yeah, hoping to finish this off fairly soon. The only reason why I've not finished the Day Lamy yet is because I wanted to 3D print more of these boxes for them to stand in. Just to have a little bit of an alternate base to match the sunduck butt here. That's kind of like characters coming out of boxes. But I just haven't got around to that yet. It's the short version. Then finally, just a couple of little bits what I'm working on. Last thing. A lot earlier in the year, I painted Ada Swanson, probably way over here somewhere. And the idea was it was a summer paint scheme. She's really solid, I'm really happy with her. One of the best models I've ever painted, because I really put a lot of effort in. So I stole this colour scheme later for my current project, which is Flamingo News. So in Infinity, you have remotes, and the remotes across all the factions are very, very similar. They have the similar profiles. So I wanted some remotes that I could run for any faction. And the only requirement is that they have to be Corvus Belli models. And most people don't even care about that. So these are custom sculpted rems that look like flamingos. I am 90% of the way there with them. Very happy with the head that I've custom sculpted, and also, despite only there being 2 of these different models, I managed to get 6 of them with mostly different poses, thanks mostly to the heads doing a lot of work to break the silhouette up a bit. They also have a war call mate to go with them, who's just the reporter for the news. But the really cool thing is, oh, can I do this? 1 second, I'm gonna... The really cool thing is, and this is still work in progress as well, is I have custom designed the weapons for these guys so that you can attach them. So in the new year, I'm going to print more of these. I don't have many at the moment, and paint them up to match. And then I'll have 6 remotes that I can choose the weapons options for. I just also think these are really goofy. Like, people see them on the table and be like, oh, that's funny. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, it's been a pretty good year. Despite the move, I've got a shitload done. I know kind of what I'm doing in the new year. because I'm waiting for the Kickstarter to arrive for Deep Rock, so I'll be painting that up. But I guess the major thing I want to do is I want to get a table finished. I said I would at the end of last year, and I've not finished it yet. It was just too big an ask. So getting this painted up, getting a couple more buildings together, getting that on the table and playing a game here will be very cool. I kind of would like to pick up another skirmish game as well. I know I've got Malifaux here that I've been sitting on and not playing, but I think just painting some new miniatures is fun enough, and if I can get one game in it was well worth it. Yeah. Also like to paint some RPG characters, maybe do some more kind of kit bashy stuff. I've been looking at a game called Turnip 28, which is entirely kit bashing models, but it's like late Renaissance kind of musket fighting between like actual Bethune, and it looks really good. So I might think about that as well. But we'll see. I'll be happy to do a number of things. Let's see what 2023 brings along. Thanks for indulging me if you've watched this far through. This is literally just a video for me, but if you've watched it, thanks for the curiosity. Goodbye.